All right. So we are back to Genesis chapter 9. And we read about how, and I'm surprised because I thought one of the commentaries would bring up this other theory, but it did not. Talked about Noah and how he got drunk from the fermented grapes and he was in his tent sleeping naked. And his wife was there. Ham went in and did something and then came out and told his brothers, and then they went in. And then the result of this is that Noah is so angry that out of Ham's, I think it was four children, he picks Canaan, and he hates Canaan and kind of casts him out. And Canaan becomes the people, the Canaanites, that becomes the enemy basically of the Jews, or that's who the Jews eventually have to, whenever they left the desert, they had to go take that land. That those are the people. And we learned that Japheth is where we come from. So we had Ham, and then we had Seth, that's the Semites or the Jews. And then there's Japheth, that's the Gentiles, which is us. And we get blessed through. So right there at the very beginning, we learned that we are blessed through Seth's God, the Israelites' God. What surprised me, okay, so then my question was, well, why did Noah get so angry? Also, the culture that they came from, remember, was very vile. A lot of sexual immorality and things like that going on, like in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. But anyway, so why did he get angry at Canaan, the grandson, out of all the grandchildren? Like, why did he pick that one? So there were three theories, which we did well, actually four that we did go over some, but the one that I thought they would mention, they didn't mention. So if we go to Leviticus 18, I am recording, okay. Leviticus 18, and it's talking about in 18 the unlawful sexual relations. And if you let's start at verse 6. None of you shall approach any one of his close relatives to uncover nakedness, which is the same word used back in Genesis. I am the Lord. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father, which is what happened to Noah, which is the nakedness of your mother. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. It is your father's nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your sister, your father's daughter, your mother's daughter. So all this goes on to this nakedness, nakedness, nakedness. So you look that word up in the Hebrew language, it's translated, or that if you go back to Genesis 9:22 and look it up in Hebrew, and it does a transliteration, and in the translation is Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside. That word is ERVA in the Hebrew, and it literally means nakedness, nudity. Figuratively, it's shameful exposure, indecency, often sexual in nature, and is often used as a euphemism for sexual sin, like in Leviticus, like we just read. So one of the things that's interesting is that Canaan, this grandchild that Noah is so angry with, like why would he like it doesn't make sense that he would be angry at this grandchild. So there are four theories, and we talked about some of them: the literal nakedness and disrespect, and basically Ham saw Noah uncovered and mocked him to his brothers, which does fit the when you just read it in English, like cultural shame, dishonoring his father. But it seems like a harsh curse for a small offense, like this deal with Canaan. And then another one is the sexual violation of Noah, which sodomy probably was a big thing because God destroyed everybody. Ham violated Noah while he was unconscious, and that would explain the depths of shame. And it does tie to the sexual um, nakedness references. Um, and that would be disturbing. But again, why Canaan? Why is he so angry at Canaan? And then there's the third one, which is mockery and public shaming, Ham humiliated Noah by telling others, and this is supported by his behavior telling his brothers outside. But still, that curse on that grandson doesn't make sense unless, this is the fourth theory, Ham had sex with his mother and she got pregnant. If Ham slept with Noah's wife, then Canaan was the result. That would match the idioms in Leviticus 18:7 and 8, which says, do not have sex with your mother. So that word meaning the same thing, that would make that make sense. Explains the focus on Canaan, however, it isn't explicitly said. So you have those four theories that you could weigh out there. It would explain why Ham's lineage was cursed, the future conflicts between Israel and the Canaanites. So I thought that would come up yesterday in the commentaries, but it did not. So that is another theory that you can put in your back pocket. Any thoughts?
Where did that come from?
If
That
you
theory?
if you go in and you Google, just you can Google the word nakedness and ask for the Hebrew interpretation of that line. And then that word, that ERVAH, is connected to the Leviticus um chapter on, was it 18? On, yeah, 18:7, on not having sexual relations with people in your family. So they're saying even though it's not explicitly out there, that it is a possibility, and it would explain Noah's extreme reaction to this one grandson that came from Ham, who was the person who was offending.
Hmm. So what you were saying then was that it's a possibility that maybe not only did he have sex with his dad, but also with his mother.
Well,
Or
what this other theory is that he had sex with his mother. Dad was there drunk.
okay,
He had sex with his mother, and she ended up pregnant with Canaan.
okay.
And that would explain. And then you think about like Noah as a man, there his wife is 9 months carrying this child that belongs to your son. And then again, it blows my mind. God just killed everybody off for all this sin. And yet here we are right away. And they were in the boat all that time. So it's a theory. It's one of four theories that they didn't bring up yesterday. But in my head, that theory makes sense because why else would he be so angry at Canaan, and that tribe of people becomes the arch enemy basically of the Israelites.
That's what I was thinking because weren't there four grandsons?
And he's the only
And
one.
he picked that one. So what did we just draw straws and decide,
What
okay,
made him
you're it.
so against that child? And that child wasn't the one that committed the sin. Ham was.
Right.
So be mad at Ham, but then why this one grandson? So to me, in my head, that theory makes sense to me with the reaction. Whether it's right or not, I don't know.
And Ham was married, correct?
hmm
Okay.
But you also have to remember where they came from. We think of Noah on the boat, but we forget that the culture where they came from was disgusting. God killed them all.
Right. And Ham knew that. That's why.
So
It
that's my
blows my
other thought too.
mind.
Is like, did God honor Noah's family because of Noah? Did God honor his family and let them come on the boat because of Noah? I think there's a lot of
That,
questions around it.
That
yes.
that thought did cross my mind either yesterday or the day before. I thought it's it's odd to me that it would be his whole, Noah's whole family, that
Mhm.
God found, so righteous. I get Noah, but the whole family. But anyway, it was just a fleeting thought.
Yeah. All right, if there are no other thoughts on that, I just wanted to share that because they did. I thought they would touch it yesterday and they didn't, but um, we are on to chapter 10.
Well, I have one other comment. The only thing I don't understand, what is the God of Shem? Like, so is that just another way of saying our God, our Father? What's the God? I mean, I didn't know there.
Because they became different groups of people. So, like Ham's became the Canaanites. So they
Yeah,
came up and became the Canaanites. And then Seth became the Semites, which is the Jews, the
right,
Jewish
right. I
people.
have all that.
And then Japheth became the Gentiles, which is us. So
Right.
Shem's God, the God of the Israelites, also became the God of the Gentiles. So that connection is already happening here in Genesis, that we would get grafted in.
I guess even though they have their different names, according to their name, the Hams, the Japhethites, the Shems, whatever. I didn't. Did they? Um, so Shem had their own god, which became the Japhethites' god. And what about did the Hammonites? Do they have a god? I just thought they all served one god. I mean,
Well,
that's throwing me. I mean, we all serve one god,
well, it's like
and they're
saying
Noah's.
it's like saying Israelites and Jews, or like we're US and Pennsylvanians. You know what I mean? Like because they came from the same family didn't mean they have the same belief systems. Or even like look at our own families. Like I believe in God, so Chrissy's God can become your God, but you may choose not to. The Canaanites, they they were sacrificing their children. They were having immoral sex, and like they had their own idols, and that's when God told the Israelites to go in and like take over the towns of the
But
Canaanites.
if Shem's God became our God, why don't they just call him our God, our Heavenly Father? I don't,
Well, back then
Lord,
it was
say,
the Old Testament is all mainly about like God trying to get his people, the Israelites, to follow him. But here, the plan's already revealed what God's going to do. He's going to graft in the Gentiles and be their God too.
okay,
Because here, Jesus is not here yet.
all right,
So they could be Jews if they wanted to believe in the God of the Jews.
okay,
Anybody
okay.
else have any thoughts on that? Everybody's awful quiet today.
It's like kind of like Mom and I were talking, I think it was yesterday, and we're like, some of this, and we've talked about before, some of this is stuff we'd like to know, but God doesn't give us that information. And it's probably like we're just being nosy, so we don't really need to know. But, the curiosity gets you about certain things that come up like that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that right here we're getting the plan. Like Genesis is the foundation of the entire Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
In the verse 26, chapter 10, mine says that Noah also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem."
Oh, in 9:26.
Yes. So that is Noah's God, the Lord.
Yeah, and let Canaan be his servant, which is what happened if you remember when they took over. The Canaanites became the servants.
But he said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem." So Noah's God was Shem's God. That's the way I read it.
Yeah. And the same thing went on with Japheth, because he says, then let him enlarge Japheth and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan will also be his servant. I never read the depth of which I'm reading this time. It's really interesting. All right, chapter 10. I don't have any breaks. Does anybody else have breaks? Oh wow, my 10 just like in Worsby, or not Worsby, in Tony Evans, it's like one, it's all one thing, 1 through 32.
I have a small break. I'm not, yeah. I have a small break after 20. It says the Sodomites, Semites.
I'm thinking that this is,
Mine just has it broke down in like the Japhethites, the Hamites, and the Semites. It has
oh,
it broke down in three sections.
it's the genealogy, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
genealogy. Yeah. Let's go ahead and read it. Let's go ahead and read it. Kim, do you want to read?
Okay. All right. Genesis 10. These are the families of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who were the three sons of Noah, for sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, Tiras. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, Togarmah. The sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodanim. Their descendants became the maritime nations in various lands, each with a separate language. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, Sabteca. The sons of Ramah were Sheba, Dedan, and Dedan. One of the descendants of Cush was Nimrod, who became the first of the kings. He was a mighty hunter, blessed the God, and his name became proverbial. People would speak of someone as being like Nimrod, a mighty hunter, blessed of God. The heart of his empire included Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. From there, he extended his reign to Assyria. He built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Calah, and Resen, which is located between Nineveh and Calah, the main city of the empire. Mizraim was the ancestor of the people inhabiting these areas: Ludim, Anamim, Lehabim, Naphtuhim, Pathrusim, Casluhim, from whom came the Philistines, and Caphtorim. Canaan's oldest son was Sidon, and he was also the father of Heth, or Heath. From Canaan descended these nations: Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Archites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zemarites, Hamathites. Eventually, the descendants of Canaan spread from Sidon all the way to Gerar in the Gaza Strip, and to Sidon, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim near Lasha. These then were the descendants of Ham, spread abroad in many lands and nations with many languages. Eber descended from Shem, the oldest brother of Japheth. Here is a list of Shem's other descendants: Elam, Ashur, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. Aram's sons were Uz, Hul, Gither, Mash. Arpachshad's sons was Shelah, and Shelah's son was Eber. Two sons were born to Eber: Peleg, meaning division, For during his lifetime, the people of the world were separated and dispersed, and Joktan, Peleg's brother. Joktan was the father of Almodad, Sheleph, Hazarmaveth, Jira, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, Jobab. These descendants of Joktan lived all the way from Mesha to the eastern hills of Sephar. These then were the descendants of Shem, classified according to their political groupings, languages, and geographical locations. All of the men listed above descended from Noah through many generations, living in the various nations that developed after the flood.
Good job, Kim.
Good job. Amen.
Oh my gosh, that was a lot of
I bet
Well,
you're
actually,
glad you
enough
didn't
me to
list
read
the
that.
daughters.
Right. No idea if I said them right, but there you go.
They sounded good.
you did great.
Okay.
Mine has a little side note here. It says, though not every ancient people group is listed in this chapter, so there are more than this, it is seen here that all of the people of the earth, regardless of the locale or language, descended from Noah. From this line, Abraham, ultimately Jesus will emerge. From this line, Abraham and ultimately Jesus will emerge. It was Abraham with whom God made everlasting covenant, promising that kings would come from his line in Genesis 17:6. In the first line of the New Testament, Jesus is introduced as Messiah and the son of Abraham. It is clear to see, even this early in Scripture, that God had a plan that was ultimately revealed in Jesus. The coming of Jesus as the promised one in the line of Abraham established the continuity of the promise and plan of God from Genesis to Revelation. I think it would be interesting to see like who these people are now, like what groups of people they are now.
Yeah. That's what I would love to know that.
I'll see if I can, well, I'm not gonna promise anything, but I'll see if I can find something.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What time is it? 19. I wonder where Cindy went. I wonder if I should read. Well, I could read Tony because he's very short. So how long is John, Cindy?
Not very long.
Okay, go ahead. Because Tony's pretty short too.
Overview 1 to 32. See the map, the nations of Genesis 10, for the locations of Noah's descendants. And I took a picture, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Verse 5, were separated according to his language. This act describes the situation after the Tower of Babel account in chapter 11.
Oh, that's interesting. So this is after the Tower of Babel.
Yes. Overview 6 to 20, the sons of Ham. Many of these were Israel's enemies. Overview 8 to 10, Nimrod. This powerful leader was evidently the force behind the building of Babel.
Is Babel E-L or L-E?
E-L.
E-L.
Thank you.
Verse 10, Babel. This city was the beginning of what later would prove to be Babylon, the eventual destroyer of God's people and his city of Jerusalem. 605 to 539 BC. Verse 11, to Assyria and built Nineveh. This was Israel's primary enemy from the east. Nimrod was Israel's prototypical ancient enemy warrior, whose name in Hebrew means rebel.
How do you spell Babylon? I'm sorry, my brain's dead today.
Babylon.
And there were dates there. What were those dates?
605 to 539 BC.
And Cindy, who were the Assyria and something else were the enemies of Israel?
Okay, to Assyria and built Nineveh. This was Israel's primary enemy from the east. And then Nimrod was Israel's prototypical ancient enemy warrior. Verses 15 to 19. Canaan. A notable shift occurs in this section away from place names to the inhabitants themselves. Note the ITE ending. These are not only the cursed people of Canaan's curse for the scene at Noah's drunkenness, but also they are those who possessed the promised land which Israel as a nation needed to conquer. But the Noahic curse alone did not determine their guilt. For God said to Abram that the iniquity of the Amorites must first be complete before his descendants could occupy the promised land. Verses 21 to 31, the sons of Shem, that is, Semitic people. Verse 21, Japheth the elder. This is better translated the elder brother of Japheth, which would make Shem the oldest of Noah's 3 sons. Verse
So the
25.
older brother of Japheth.
Yes.
Japheth.
H-E-T-H.
So the father of
H-E-T-H.
all the children of Eber, meaning he was the older. Was Eber his dad?
First,
Mine reads, to Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the elder brother of Japheth, children were born. The father of all the children of Eber. What is Eber?
Mine reads, sons were also born to Shem, whose older brother was Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the sons of Eber.
Yeah, Eber descended from Shem. Along with Elam, Ashur, Arachshad, Lud, and Aram. Oh, and then 2 sons were born to Eber.
Is Eber a woman? Anybody have a note on that? I'm going to look
see
up.
if I can find anything in my book.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, Eber, a descendant of Shem through. Oh, here we go, Kim. Arphaxad, and the progenitor of various peoples.
So he's just saying Eber was in Shem's line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't say if it's a man or a woman.
It's fallen under the men in my book.
Oh.
I'll look under the women too, but it's fallen under the men.
He's the great, in Genesis 10, Eber is identified as the great grandson of Shem, the great grandson of Shem, and the ancestor of the Hebrews. He's the father of Peleg, Joktan, Peleg being a direct ancestor of Abraham. It is believed to have originally denoted a region rather than a person. That's according to AI.
Doesn't really give a whole lot about him in here. It just basically said he's a descendant of Shem through that Arphaxad.
It's just worded weirdly. Like the other ones, were like the sons of Ham, the sons of Japheth. This says to Shem also, the father of all children of Eber. But then I guess maybe they're pointing out because he's the direct line to Jesus, because then in 25 it says to Eber were born two sons. One was
Well,
Peleg, and his brother was Joktan.
it has a reference in here too to chapter 11, verse 14 to 17, and it goes into more, when you go into chapter 11, it goes into more genealogy of Eber.
So I guess the important thing here is that Eber was the direct line to Abraham and then to Jesus.
And then there's a First Chronicles. Let me see what it says.
Just an odd, like the wording was different.
First Chronicles 5:13, it had a reference for, and that basically is more genealogy. Their relatives by families were Michael, Meshullam, Sheba, Orahah, Jachin, Zia, and Eber, 7 in all. So it's just more genealogy there.
Oh, hey, I see Shem. Oh, Eber descended from Shem. Shem's other descendants. And then that Arpachshad, Arpachshad is one
Yeah.
of Shem's other, and then it goes in verse 24, Arpachshad's son was Shelah, and Shelah's son was Eber.
So I think that the beginning of maybe it's worded differently to point out Eber specifically because he was the direct line to Abraham and Jesus. That's what it feels
Yeah.
like.
Maybe because then it goes on to continue with Eber. Two sons of Eber were Peleg and
And I think wasn't it through
Joktan.
Peleg? Wasn't it through Peleg that what I read?
It was through Peleg that the earth was divided. Well, it was at that time.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't know.
It's just weird wording. Like,
And yeah, it is. In 25, it says two sons were born to Eber, Peleg, meaning division. For during his lifetime, the people of the world were separated and dispersed.
Yeah, and John says in verse 25, the earth was divided. This looks ahead to the dispersion of nations at Babel.
oh,
Which is going into the next chapter.
Yeah.
So the descendants of Peleg, that was during his lifetime era of the what Cindy said.
Mhm.
okay. So reading this again, Eber is identified as the great grandson of Shem and the ancestor of the Hebrews. He is the father of Peleg and Joktan, with Peleg being a direct ancestor of Abraham. So maybe because it becomes the division of like the Jews and the Gentiles, or the godly and the ungodly. All right. Sorry, Cindy.
That's it for John.
Oh, that was it? Oh, it's right on time. So Peleg was the direct line through Eber. Any last minute thoughts? We'll have to pick up with Worsby and Tony on Monday.
Good grief, I have trouble keeping up with my own family, let alone everybody else's.
Yeah, we'll be like 3 studies out. We'll be like, don't you remember something about that Peleg somewhere? I don't remember. Like, I don't remember what book it was in. Oh, this is a good one. Are you ready? Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Trivia. Sue, you joining us? Okay. When King Solomon died, where was he buried? It'll make
I'll
sense.
let,
Go ahead.
I'll let Scholar Julie handle that one.
Florida Julie.
You're on a blind.
In the city of David. Second Chronicles 9:31.
Well, it makes sense.
I know. After I read the answer, I was like, "Oh, well, that makes sense." I think they were all buried together, weren't they? Weren't like I remember there being like the
I think
fathers were all the patriotic fathers were all buried in the same place. All right, this concludes reading the God's word for today.
for sure. For certain.
See you Monday. Happy Resurrection Day, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.